Confessions 16. When I was only about 20 years of age, Aristotle's book on the 10 categories came into my hands. Whenever my teacher at Carthage and others who were reputed to be scholars mentioned this book, their cheeks would swell with self-importance, so that the title alone was enough to make me stand agape, as though I were poised over some wonderful divine mystery. I managed to read it and understand it without help, though I now ask myself what advantage I gained from doing so. Other people told me that they had understood it only with difficulty, after the most learned masters had not only explained it to them but also illustrated it with a wealth of diagrams. But when I discussed it with them, I found that they could tell me no more about it than I had already discovered by reading it on my own. The meaning of the book seemed clear enough to me. It defines substance, such as man, and its attributes. For instance, a man has a certain shape. This is quality. He has height, measured in feet, which is quantity. He has relation to other men. For example, he is another man's brother. You may say where he is and when he was born, or describe his position as standing or sitting. You may name his possessions by saying that he has shoes or carries arms. You may define what he does and what is done to him. I have mentioned these examples, but there are countless others, all falling into these 9 categories or the main category of substance. What profit did this study bring me? None. In fact, it made difficulties for me, because I thought that everything that existed could be reduced to these 10 categories, and I therefore attempted to understand you, my God, in all your wonderful, immutable simplicity in these same terms, as though you too were substance, and greatness and beauty were your attributes in the same way that a body has attributes by which it is defined. But your greatness and beauty are your own self, whereas a body is not great or beautiful simply because it is a body. It will still be a body, even if it were less great or less beautiful. My conception of you was quite untrue, a mere falsehood. It was a fiction based on my own wretched state, not the firm foundation of your bliss. It was your command that the ground should yield me thorns and thistles, and that I should earn my bread with the sweat of my brow. And your word was accomplished in me. I read and understood by myself all the books that I could find on the so-called liberal arts, for in those days I was a good for nothing and a slave to sordid ambitions. But what advantage did I gain from them? I read them with pleasure, but I did not know the real source of such true and certain facts as they contained. I had my back to the light, and my face was turned towards the things which it illumined, so that my eyes, by which I saw the things which stood in the light, were themselves in darkness. Without great difficulty and without need of a teacher, I understood all that I read on the arts of rhetoric and logic, on geometry, music, and mathematics. You know this, O Lord my God, because if a man is quick to understand and his perception is keen, he has these gifts from you. But since I made no offering of them to you, it did me more harm than good, to struggle to keep in my own power so large a part of what you had given to me, and instead of preserving my strength for you, to leave you and go to a far country, to squander your gifts on loves that sold themselves for money. For what good to me was my ability if I did not use it well? And ability I had, for until I tried to instruct others, I did not realize that these subjects are very difficult to master. Even for pupils who are studious and intelligent, and a student who could follow my instruction without faltering was reckoned a very fine scholar. But what value did I gain from my reading as long as I thought that you, Lord God, who are the truth, were a bright, unbounded body, and I a small piece broken from it? What utter distortion of the truth! Yet this was my belief, and I do not now blush to acknowledge, my God, the mercies you have shown to me, nor to call you to my aid, just as in those days I did not blush to declare my blasphemies aloud and snarl at you like a dog. What then was the value to me of my intelligence, which could take these subjects in its stride, and all those books with their tangled problems, which I unravelled without the help of any human tutor, when in the doctrine of your love I was lost in the most hideous error and the vilest sacrilege? And was it so great a drawback to your faithful children that they were slower than I to understand such things? For they did not forsake you, but grew like fledglings in the safe nest of your church, nourishing the wings of charity on the food of the faith that would save them. O Lord our God, let the shelter of your wings give us hope. Protect us and uphold us. You will be the support that upholds us from childhood till the hair on our heads is grey. When you are our strength, we are strong, but when our strength is our own, we are weak. In you our good abides forever, and when we turn away from it, we turn to evil. Let us come home at last to you, O Lord, for fear that we be lost. For in you our good abides, and it has no blemish, since it is yourself. Nor do we fear that there is no home to which we can return. We fell from it, but our home is your eternity, and it does not fall because we are away.